Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are taking a look at RC four-wheel drive Mickey Thompson Baja MTZ P3 crawler tires. It's quite the mouthful. These are technically an RTR tire as they come with the RC four-wheel drive C2X ready to run crawler. But they are in RC four-wheel drive's X2SS compound, which is typically a better performing compound than a lot of their scale tires. Did I say P6? I think it's P3. I don't know. It'll be in the description, in the title. Kind of forgot to do my research before I came out here. When I grab a box of tires to bring out to test, I've got so many tires, I just throw some in a box. And so a lot of times I have to try to remember to get on the old interwebs first and look up some specs. But I forgot to do that, so I'm trying to do a lot of this from memory. They're either P3 or P6. They're a slightly shorter Class 2 tire. They're 4.65, but still a decent tire. They are absolutely X2SS. I believe they're pretty inexpensive. I want to say they're around the $25, $26 a pair price range. And the foams that these come with, although they are a, single stage open cell foam, they're a lot better than what RC four-wheel drive tires come with. Typically, they're not nearly as firm, so they're a pretty good foam. But today in these, I am running SL3D RC 3D printed inserts. On the side hill, let's just call them the MTZs, are doing very well. Not a whole lot of side slide, only really sliding when I kind of want them to. When I'm turning up, that rear end slides when I get the front at full lock and start repositioning. The rear end slides just enough to kind of let me go where I want to. That's really, really good side hill performance. And if you've watched the previous two videos, in the 2 weeks prior to this, you'll notice that I recorded the Proline Hyrax and G8 and the OT6 KLR Trail Spec Gold Dot tires, and both those tires struggled with not just the side hill, but this course in general. Between the tires and the foam choices for those tires might not have been the best. It's nice to have a tire that seems to be doing well, although I think I'm about to get myself in a not optimal situation here. Hello, go away. Just kind of doing things I probably shouldn't. Usually it's not great to back down this obstacle and then try to reposition. Being that the rig is front weight biased, we're gonna possibly start seeing some a rollout here. If we do, this is more of a driver mistake than it would be a tire issue, but actually we might be okay here. Again, if you've watched a couple of the previous videos, actually just the previous one, the KLRs, you know that I have switched from using a tripod to a chest mount for my phone. That makes my life easier for driving. It makes it a little different for recording. It's actually a little bit easier for me to record, but I was kind of used to the tripod, so I've got to kind of make sure that I'm getting the the camera angles and keeping the truck in frame as much as I can. But there may be some issues here and there you'll have to forgive me for while I learn this, but I like this a lot better than the tripod. And part of it is because the tripod I was using was cheap. It was really unstable out here. As you can see, this ground, I mean, it's very uneven. There's not a whole lot of flat places to stand. There's not a whole lot of flat places to place a $15 cheap Amazon tripod. And right now we're dealing with some decent wind. It's not extremely windy. Haven't had to switch to the lapel quite yet, but it's windy enough to where it was kind of making my tripod wobble a lot, and that makes me have to drive one-handed a lot because I have to stabilize the tripod with my other hand. So the chest rig is eliminating some of that. It's also going to allow me to get some camera angles that I'm not normally able to get. It's going to allow me to follow the rig. Sometimes I'm still going to pause between most obstacles so you don't have to watch me walk and hear me talk, because inevitably I will talk for as long as the camera's rolling. And I don't know why I do that, because normally my wife watched one of my videos and she was like, I think you talked more in that video than you talked to me in a week. So I'm not really that social of a person, but man, I guess you get the camera rolling and I think I have to fill the dead air. The lake is back down to normal water levels, more or less, a couple inches high still, but a couple weeks ago we were 18 feet high, so the whole course was underwater and unusable. So it's just nice to be back out here crawling. I liked this angle better. Nice to be out here crawling, being able to do some reviews, being able to get some driving in. Our last two tires struggled here. Let's see how the MTZs do. Normally what we expect is, yeah, well, little, oh, there's some traction hop. That's not great. What we want, I thought we were going to do it. Now I'm sitting on that rear bumper. Let's reposition. Oh, sliding sideways. Our Hyrax and our KLRs failed this obstacle. I think the MTZs are going to get it. Just need to find their line and find their speed. That's not technically a fair. There we go. Let's get, there we go. Nope. So I'm not sure what happened. It seems that tires are struggling here more than I remember them doing in the past. This isn't an easy obstacle, but it's not that difficult. But maybe my expectations of some of these tires is just higher than what it should be. I remember these tires being pretty good. Although the last time I ran them, I believe I was running Crawler Innovation Novas and not 3D inserts. And 3D inserts, if you've seen any of my videos before, you know my opinion of 3D inserts is I don't hate them, but I don't love them because they create more traction hop than I like. But unfortunately, when they first came out, I kind of went a little too hard with them and bought a bunch. And so now I just have a bunch. And so you'll see them in tires quite often because I've got them. All right, well, that's a pass. That roll off the obstacle is because something major has changed here. With the water, this whole area was underwater. And there should be rocks here, and there's not. So we might roll off a lot until I don't know if this has always been like that. We'll do some rebuilding here later. I'm not going to do that right now. So, you know, we'll call it a pass, but only just. Now, coming up to our third obstacle. Not an overly difficult one. We're just kind of relying on the rear tire to be able to hook the ledge of these rocks and kind of push us up. And MTZ is able to do that with zero issues at all, very easily. We kind of exit here on a side hill. Yeah, no issues at all. Down into our little ravine that is new. Requires a couple reverses. It's another thing, just got washed out with all the water. That's okay. I don't need to fill it in because it's not hindering me. It's just changing the way I gotta drive, which is acceptable. One of the difficulties using this chest mount instead of the tripod is the camera is much closer to me, and so it's harder for me to check the screen to see what I'm recording, especially harder to do it quickly. I'm still getting used to that, so I do apologize if I'm not tracking the rig perfectly or if the zoom level's not always right. I'm trying to figure it all out. But it is a learning curve. Recording videos in general while you're crawling is a bit of a learning curve, at least for me. So here, this is an obstacle, and what we're testing is the front tire's ability to steer while on a downward side hill. So all the weight of the rig is now transferred on the front tires, largely on front passenger, and it needs to be able to hold on and continue to steer rather than just sliding. And the MTZ is doing an excellent job there. Absolutely no slide, perfect position ability, exactly what we want to see from a good tire. Flawless performance on there. And we come up to our used to be harder than it looked. Well, if I don't drive into the side of a rock. Used to be harder than it looked, but I think the rain made it easier, because I think the rain settled this rock quite a lot. So I think it's a lot lower than it used to be. And so now everything just kind of seems to be driving right up it. Ooh, I say that just as the MTZs start to struggle a bit. Yeah. Not really struggle. Just now I've got my, what's going on? Oh, there's a ledge there that I'm caught in. Okay, well I took a weird line here. Part of it's because the rig is pivoting. Part of it is because I'm talking and not paying attention. I think that obstacle is easier than it used to be. I might need to figure out something to try to make it harder, or just stop making it an obstacle. It didn't start out as an obstacle. It started out as a transition, and then it became harder than it needed to be, or than it used to be. It became harder than it looked. So I made it an obstacle, and now I'm indecisive. Let's just call it a part of the obstacle that I'm coming up to. So this and this is all one obstacle. So coming up here, what we rely on is, first we rely on the rear tires to push us up onto this rock face. So we need to hook this ledge and push us up. Got to get the right angle to really do it. Right now I'm not at the right angle. Let's do an actual reposition. Yeah, that wind's starting to come back up. I might have to switch to lapel after this video. So there we go. And then once we get up here, the edge of this bigger rock is very smooth. Here, there's not a good lip on it. So now we're more dependent on the weight having been transferred to the front tires. Now we're reliant on the front tires to help pull us up enough for the rears to be able to catch a little bit of ledge that there is. So this is kind of actually a tricksy obstacle, even though it doesn't look that hard. But as you can see, most of the time you just have to find your line. There's nothing overly complicated with it. But an opposite, or a tire that doesn't have good forward drive, struggles a lot there, because once you get over that initial push, it doesn't have the pull to get us up and up. This is an example of one that's extremely hard for me to see what the camera's pointing at, because where I'm standing, where the rig is, I have to have the phone at an angle where I can't really just look down and see it. What we're dependent on here is for the front and rear tires to work together to provide just the amount of grip and just the amount of slip to be able to go down this obstacle. I need the front tires to grip enough to let me down slowly, but I need the rear tires to slip enough to allow them to. So it's kind of a dance, if you will, a little ballet. Now this right there, that's pretty normal because we get off, there's a very steep dismount. So it's not abnormal to have the nosedive there. Technically that's a recovery. When we get that nosedive, more often than not, that's indicative of driver error more than it is with an issue with the tire. If we do just a complete front flip, like a fast front flip to where it flips too quickly to do the nosedive, that's more of a sign of an issue with the tire sliding a little bit too much, a little bit too quickly. So the MTZs, no issues there. Pretty happy with that performance. They could slide just a little bit more, but I'll take grip over slip if I have to choose. And now we come up to probably our most difficult obstacle, the one where we hook the side lug on the edge of this rock and try to use side lug to walk our way up. There's been very few tires who can do this without having to hook the sidewall and use that side lug. The Upgrade RC rock claws are actually one that we're able to walk this just right here. Just walked right up here. Low wheel speed, didn't have to hook the sidewall. Not a lot of tires can make that claim. What we want is for a tire to be able to crawl up here slowly and get a little bit further up the rock face than where we're at right now, and then I can shuttle it over and hook that sidewall. The MTZ is not able to do that. Lots of bounce and traction hop, largely, well, not largely, but assisted by those 3D inserts, creating some of that traction hop. So I think we're gonna have to resort to a little bit of wheel speed to bump us up there. Let's see. Okay, we did have to resort to wheel speed, but I want you to go back and watch the last week's video of the KLR, and you'll see the difference between a tire that is controllable and a tire that is not controllable, because I had to use a bump with both of these tires to get them up here. But the KLR, when you used bump, it would just, you know, the rig would shoot off in one direction or the other. It was very unpredictable. The MTZs, although I did have to use that bump to get them up here, they weren't able to slow walk it. It went very straight. It was very predictable. It was very easy. It did exactly what I wanted it to do, whereas the KLR didn't. It was basically just trial and error until I lucked out to get the sidewall hooked. And that, I'm not necessarily trying to compare the MTZ against the KLR, but what I'm saying is that's kind of the difference between a controllable tire and an uncontrollable tire. A tire that has good forward drive and good grip and good steering, and a tire that has none of that is, you might have to use some of the same techniques with both tires, but the tires respond very differently to those techniques. That's a really good pass on that obstacle. Again, you prefer a tire to be able to just do the whole thing slowly, but when you have to resort to wheel speed, that's what you want to see. That's the performance you want to see. And as you know here, this is a test of kind of forward drive mostly. We're going to come up here. We need to stay away from the edge of here, because if we fall off, you're not going to get back up unless you've got a taller tire, like a 5 1/4 or taller. But really what we want to see is the rear pumpkin is going to get hung here. This is by design. The rear tires will be here and on the other side of that, so the rear tires will not have traction, and we will be dependent on the front tires to pull the rear off of that. Now, interestingly, with this setup, with these bead locks, the hubs on these bead locks are a little bit wider than what I normally run on this rig, and so our stance is just a hair wider, and I'm not 100% sure how that's going to impact us, if it's going to impact us at all. We shall see right now. Yeah, we still got the diff hang up. Still don't have any rear tire touching. That's good. So now, yeah, perfect. Plenty of grip on those front tires. Pull us right up and off that obstacle. No issues at all. That's exactly what we want to see. And that's impressive because this is a little bit shorter tire. Taller tires have an advantage there. Full, 475 class 2 tires have more of an advantage there than like this. This is a 465, and with those 3D inserts in them, they bag out enough, and their static height is about 4.5, 4.6. So that's pretty impressive. That's good amount of grip. And we come up to our big steep side hill here. I hope I've got a good angle and zoom level on this. I can't see my screen at all. the sun is shining right down on my back, and I'm like just on the edge of the shade. There we go. I think that's okay. All right, we want to pull onto here slowly if possible, but I kind of messed up my entry line and went too far over to the right. Let's see if we can back up off here without rolling off. Try that again. That was 95% driver error. Some tires can make up for my lack of driving. The MTZ unable to in that case. And what we want to do is low speed. We can search the rock face for traction if need be. Ooh, decent amount of slide back right there. That area of the rock that does get very steep where those rear tires are. But there's a little more slide back than I like to see. But able to recover. We're able to move our way up. I think I'm going to give her a little bit more throttle. Yeah, that's what it wants. Just a little more throttle. Some traction hop being created with those 3D inserts as we hit just a little bit of a lip in the rock that's like right there. I let go of the throttle to point at that and got caught on that tree. Let's come back over. Let's back off on the zoom. And we dismount smoothly. Yeah, not really an issue there. Not the smoothest, not the best performance there of any tire, but that was pretty good. And now we're getting to the trails, which gotta pay attention to my camera angle. Ooh, there's good entry onto the trails. A couple tires have been struggling there lately. Please tell me that was on camera. This is where I'm going to struggle to figure out what's the length, the distance which I need to follow the rig at to keep it on camera without having to adjust the camera constantly. But I think this will be easier to do than it was with the tripod once I figure out what I'm doing. Rather than having to carry the tripod in my hand, I'm able to just walk and steer. You know, use both hands on the transmitter or stable myself on a tree as the terrain here gets very uneven. Okay, let's go up over here. And our last kind of real obstacle. Some tires struggle here on the, where's my finger? Bottom of this rock here. Looks a little bit easier than it actually is. It's very slick there, very smooth. No issues at all. Some tires struggle to get up right there, but the MTZ is making very easy work of that. So that was the last kind of actual obstacle, but technically the last obstacle is what we're coming up to now. Is our loose gravel hill climb. But this week we're not really calling it an obstacle because with all the rain that we had lately, this is still pretty packed in. The ground's pretty soft, and the gravel is not loose. So easy peasy. I'm able to walk up here without sliding, which is not normal. Rig able to do it without issues. So what do we think of the MTZs? Well, I like them. I think they're a good tire. I like the size. I like that they're just a little bit less than 475. I like the design. They look good. They're a scale tire, so they've got that going for them for people who care about a scale tire, and they perform well, which is really good for people who care about a scale tire because there's always some correlation between scale tires and tires that don't perform as good as others. And while I wouldn't claim that these are one of the best performing tires out there, they're definitely a contender. They can hold their own with some of the better tires, in my opinion. You know, I might have the unpopular opinion that like Proline tires are overrated and RC four-wheel drive tires are underrated. Even a lot of their X2S3 compound, they're more trail compound tires, I find perform pretty well out here, at least for me on the sandstone that I crawl on. And a lot of Proline tires, whether it's Predator or G8, I mean, Predator just gets eaten up by the rocks and the heat. I mean, we're at 90 degrees right now. But G8s just don't usually do that good. So I know a lot of people kind of don't love RC four-wheel drive tires. They don't have the best reputation, save for a few specific ones. But overall, I kind of like them better than Prolines. And specifically with the Baja MTZs, these are a good tire. I would put these probably not at Tusk level, but slightly under a J Concepts Tusk. Like they're really good. And there's rigs that I would run this on over a Tusk because of the diameter of it. Normally, this much bag on the front tire, I don't love. The 3D inserts in these are allowing that to bag, but quite honestly, these performed very well. I would run these as is. These are a good tire. I like them a lot. I believe they're about $25 or $26 a pair. The foams they come in with, again, they're not great because they're still an open cell foam, but they're pretty good. Like they're like a J Concepts foam. They're matched pretty well to the tire. Proline foams I find are usually too soft. Most RC four-wheel drive foams are way too stiff. The foams that come with these tires are pretty dang good. And for most rigs that run between 5 and 6.5 pounds, I think you could run the factory foams with this tire and you'd be pretty well set. So I recommend them. I think they're a good tire. I think they're a vastly underrated and underpopularized tire. And yeah, until next time, everyone, have a good one.